Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel. And excuse me, thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, I suppose, the other side of local Australians losing jobs in the wider sort of mass migration, jobs offshoring type discussion. Now, depending on whose numbers you look at, tens of thousands of jobs associated with the local, if you like, the finance sector, talking big finance, big banks, that sort of thing. In Australia, tens of thousands of jobs, in some numbers, well over 100,000 jobs have been sent offshore to the places like, particularly India and some to the Philippines. And they tend to be more back office operations, but nonetheless, these are jobs that otherwise would be done in Australia by Australians. So why are these jobs, firstly, why are the local people being fired, laid off, made redundant, whatever, and that those same jobs are being then sent offshore to a third world country? Now, the big finance players engage in a lot of lies, a lot of disingenuous behavior, a lot of outright treachery, and so on. But what's wrong with this overall picture? Well, in Australia and around other parts of the world, but using Australia as the baseline at the moment, the big financial institutions get a lot of government protection. The government gets the right to say which international financial institutions can open up an office or have put operations into Australia, and what area of banking and finance they can operate in. So the international groups are quite restricted in what they can do. So this leaves the local outfits. This leaves them to be effectively in an oligopoly cartel type situation, which allows them to record bonanza level profits. And it's easy money. They don't have to compete. They don't have to go out and win the business or give better quality service or anything like that. In fact, quite the opposite. If you don't like it, then there's kind of nowhere else for you to go. So you have to just suck it up and accept the shitty level of service and so on that you get. So they've got easy profits, easy market conditions, no real competition. There are areas of sort of, the top end of the business banking thing there. They compete, not very well, by the way, but they do compete at that area. Most of the time they lose badly there, and they just can't play in that league. Well, certainly not with the international players anyway. Wherever they do, they tend to fuck it up royally. But anyway, they're hugely profitable, these financial institutions, simply because they exist in a cartel. Like I would argue, I believe, in my view, they operate in a cartel oligopoly type situation. Now, at the same time as the money is easy, the profits just rolling through the door, at the same time, the best paid jobs in Australia are the C-level executives in the banks. So in an organization where you don't have to compete to make your profit, where you're government protected, you're in a cartel, those are the best paid jobs in the so clearly there's something out of alignment there. If these people had to compete, they had to be the best of the best to win and compete in the open marketplace, and they're paid big bucks. Well, that's okay. I don't mind that. The very best people are there making the best investment decisions and so on. Okay, fine. They should be well paid for being able to produce results under difficult and challenging circumstances. No question there. But they're not. They're operating in some of the easiest circumstances anywhere in the world, and they're in the least competitive. They don't have to be good at all. They could be as useless as whatever, and still the money rolls in through the door, and these guys make millions. So when they argue, oh well, we have to compete. We've got to compete in the marketplace. It's a bare knuckle business out there, and we got to compete. We got to trim the costs. So we have to cut people from the payroll in order to compete out there in that wild, wicked world. So they fire thousands of Australian workers, But then, as much as they deny it, they then hire those workers in India or Philippines, for example. When they're questioned on it, they often deny, no, we would never do something like that. We're the good guys, Yeah, sure. But they do that. And recently, one of Australia's banks was caught out brazenly lying to the media and to the Australian public. Now, what's interesting here is that the government does nothing to stop this practice of these cartel-like outfits sending jobs offshore to India, and also, by the way, bringing masses of Indians and so on into Australia to work at the bank. Some of these big banks are equivalent. They're an extension of the public service, in effect, giving DEI and affirmative action, race, gender quotas, and an astonishing number of Indians come to Australia and get instantly, within the second that they set foot in the country, they're given a job at one of the big banks. And this is clearly not that they're not having to compete for these jobs or not having to be the best or the best qualified. These jobs have been set aside and allocated for, again, primarily Indians to be given employment without any form of meritorious selection. So the government does nothing to stop this, even though it's I would argue something of an outrage. You fire the local people, then send the jobs offshore. This is an Australian bank in Australia, and surely they'd have some sort of kind to employ Australians. Or am I just misguided in that view? So the next sort of thing that I guess is interesting is the unions. Now the banking unions used to be quite powerful and influential, and yet the unions just send some strongly worded letter: naughty, naughty, bad, naughty bank, don't do that again. But they don't do anything about it. They don't take any industrial action. They don't engage in some sort of enterprise level union-wide bargaining with the bank and say, no, you can't do that. They don't demand that the bank make concessions. So, well, look, if you want to send jobs offshore, then there should be a cap on the salary that any bank executive can earn, and that could be no more than X. So they're not engaging in quid pro quo here. So the big again, the government protected cartel, easy profits, not having to compete for your easy money, and yet they're shipping jobs offshore. I mean, why are they doing this? Again, they don't have to compete. So really the amount of jobs on the payroll is not really relevant to anything. If they had to compete, sure, okay, but they don't. So this is something that the big companies in Australia, all the bigger firms, the ones that are protected by the government or they're given huge, cozy, juicy, easy money government contracts that are fat with profits, those companies are working in tandem with the government in turn controlled by the globalist cabal, to sell out the local citizenry by engineering mass migration and giving employment, bulk mass employment, non-meritoriously to these third world people. And then at the same time, any other job, shipping them offshore, again, primarily to India. So this is, I mean, mass scale treachery and fraudulent behaviour in the employment practices is my assessment of this. But what do you think? You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.